Hello, BookTube. I have another video about books for you. I can't get enough of talking to you about books. So I thought we'd go through some more books. This is not really a mail haul because I'm not opening any packages. But they're all still, I think, fairly new, and they range all over the map. There's bound to be something in here that'll interest you. And I thought you should know about them. That's one of the reasons why I talk about new books here. Is I don't expect everybody to read as many new releases as I do. One of the reasons I talk about them so much is that I want you to know about them. I want you to know what's out there, and I want us to have, talked about them, knocked them around a little. Even if we don't know anything about them, we can still talk about contextualizing them a little. That way, if it does interest you, right, your interests don't have to be anything like mine. If it does interest you, you'll at least know that it's there. So I've got a little stack here. We'll try and get through it expeditiously. I realized I abused the privilege yesterday by giving you over 3 hours of videos to watch or listen to or whatever. Sorry about that. Every once in a while, I just love talking to you so much that I want to talk about everything. And yesterday was almost twice as long as it was. Yesterday was a lot of Steve time. And it was almost twice as long because I was in a groove and I kept thinking, I haven't talked to them about this. I haven't talked to them about that. I stopped. And I'm going to stop today as well. But I want to go through, what have we got here? 5 or 6 new books. Or newish books, just to show them to you and talk about them a little. This first one is from Post Hill Press, probably a small press. It's by Sam George, and it's called I'll Get Back to You. The Discommunication Crisis, Why Unreturned Messages Drive Us Crazy, and What to Do About It. And believe it or not, that's what the book seems to be about. Just unreturned messages. Unreturned texts, unreturned emails, that sort of thing. Ranging from sending an email to a coworker, you need their approval, you need them involved in a practical matter, and they just don't get back to you, and you need them to. So now you're faced with the prospect of being annoying or nagging them. Ranging from that all the way to, for instance, Voxer, the app Voxer, which is a message app that tells you when your recipient, usually, it tells you when your recipient has read your message. So it doesn't just tell you that your message was delivered, it tells you when it was read, when it was seen by someone. Which automatically, just like with texting, fosters an impatience. You know that so-and-so has read your text, why haven't they responded? There can actually, in the real world, be a million answers for that. It might not be them. The phone obviously doesn't know when someone has read your message. They know when someone has opened the app. It doesn't have to be you. And even if it is you, there are a million reasons why you wouldn't respond right away. Nevertheless, we're just humans, so that has that kind of reaction. And this guy apparently has a solution. I'll Get Back to You exposes one of life's dirty secrets hiding in plain sight. Unreturned messages drive us nuts and send our heads spinning. It's too painful and crazy to even talk about, but he wrote a book about it. The problem is pervasive due to the nature of digital communication. Fading are the days of direct communication by phone or in person, which have immediate responses and clarifications, and immediate impositions as well. You can't avoid a phone call. You can't determine when it's going to start and stop. I remember those days. I don't know how many of you do. I was happy to see the back of them. Anyway, the immediate feedback loop has been replaced by, quote, broken loops of communication. Now, due to hundreds of emails and texts endlessly waiting, perpetual unreturned messages, and unlimited misunderstandings, we are in a discommunication crisis. So that is what the author is referring to here. Not miscommunication, where two people are communicating and just not understanding each other, but discommunication, where they aren't communicating and they want to, or they should. I think that's kind of fascinating. I absolutely love books that reflect on the nature of our technological world today. I absolutely love stuff like this, whether I end up agreeing with the conclusions of the author or not. I myself look at this subject and don't think it's that big a deal. I'm not sure that I'm going to buy the author's contention that it's preying on us all and ruining our lives. I make sure that everybody knows, for me, that I get a lot of emails. I get about 300 emails a day, and I'm not talking junk. I get about 300 emails a day that need something or other, whether it's response or action or something. And I do a lot of those emails. I set aside a block of time every day to do emails, and I enjoy it. But I think that the ultimate answer to discommunication, the discommunication crisis, is for everybody to do that. Make sure that everybody sending you emails knows what they're up against. I don't think any of you, maybe somebody brand new to the channel, but I don't think any of you, I leave my email on every video. That's an open call for discommunication. I leave my email on every video. So you can email about anything in the world. You've got a dog who's sick, you've got a book recommendation you're looking for, you've got a relative who's driving you up the wall. I'm happy to hear about all of that. But it would only be a brand new person to this channel who wouldn't know that you're going to have to cut me some slack, right? I get 300 emails a day, so I might not get to your email right away, and I might not write back at the length to which you write to me. There's a gimmick, there's a trick to that, to doing that right. Some of you obviously must email people all day long yourselves, because some of you know that right away. Some of the people that I email, I correspond with a vast number of you now, and some of you get that right away. So you might have a 10,000 word essay on your mind about what Steve thinks about a certain Icelandic saga, but it's not the email that you send. Instead, you say, great day, looking forward to your emails today, or your videos today, how's Frida? Oh, by the way, I'm thinking about this, what do you think? Perfect. It's one sentence, I can read it in a glance, and I can respond right away. It isn't requesting work of me. It's friends chatting. That is perfect, and I can do 100 of those in an hour. And that is wonderful. I get a lot of other stuff too that isn't quite that easy. I don't ever succeed, but I try to adhere to the zero inbox philosophy. If you ever look at productivity YouTube channels, it will come up quite a bit in people who don't try at all. I actually do try. Zero inbox means that by the time you're done, by the time you close your laptop at the end of the day, whenever that end of the day is, for me, it's hours and hours before I actually stop. Because I devote the end of every day, every one of my days, I devote a huge chunk of the end of the day to reading with no technology at all, no interruptions of any kind. Usually during the morning that I do emails, or in the early afternoon. And the zero inbox philosophy says that when you shut your laptop for the end of your day, whenever that is, you have no emails in your inbox. You've handled them all. In one way or another, you've handled them all. I love that philosophy. I love that approach. And I try to implement some of the precepts. Most of them are just common sense. You look through your emails and say, all right, what needs work? Right? If one of you sends me an email and says, I'd like your extended thoughts on these 35 books, and feel free to take a couple of days to respond. If one of you does that, you're never going to hear from me again, obviously. But I'm going to look at that email and think, okay, well, not only am I not going to respond to this, but there's no reason for it to be in my inbox. I'll just delete it. Since I know I'm not going to respond to it, what am I going to keep it for? So I can show it to my grandchildren. so I would just delete things like that. I can go through the inbox, and you delete all the junk mail, obviously. I delete everything from the social form, the social side of Gmail. I delete all that sight unseen, because all of those emails are reflections from somewhere else. Most of them reflections of comments made on videos that I make for BookTube. Well, I'm going to address those in situ. I'm going to go to the source for those. I don't need to address those in my email. I don't want them cluttering up my email, so I just delete those. Everything that comes from publishers, respond right away. The publicists are really busy. They don't want a long missive any more than I do, any more than I want to write one. So I don't. If they're sending me an email about a book, they want to know whether or not I'm interested. I can fire that off. I can do 100 of those in an hour. Then they're all gone. Then I take all those emails and move them to the folder for work so that I know where to find them if I need them. But they're all gone from my inbox. Then the personal stuff, you'll get friends who want a little bit of nattering, a little bit of wool gathering. Happy to do that. And the thing that allows me to do that is that I have given the emails that aren't that only the attention and time they warrant. Instead of giving everything that time. If you give everything that kind of time, then when it comes time for you to write an email to your best friend who's on vacation, or a best friend who's on vacation, or another best friend who's on vacation, you won't have the time or energy to do it. Instead, that's how I prioritize things, and it tends to work. The one thing that I try not to do, unless the sender has been just egregiously clueless, if somebody sends me a quick, brisk, to-the-point email, I send them a response, a quick, brisk, to-the-point response. I do not just ignore them. It's only when the sender is beyond the pale, when they're asking something, when they're imposing, that's when I might ignore them. But otherwise, the discommunication that I think is going to be talked about in this book, I don't do. And it's weird to me that it's become so common in professional circles for people to do that. In professional circles, it's just routine now that you will send a business-related email and simply not get any response at all. Not a quick line saying, I'm really busy, I'll get back to you next week, or or 2 weeks from now, or let me think about this, or anything like that. Just no response whatsoever. I've had that happen to me in the last 5-6 years, more often than in the 50 years before that put together, where I email an editor, I say, about this matter that we discussed last week, here's what I want to do, is this okay? Hit send. It goes to them. I know that they read it. I know they read it that day. I know they have an answer, and I know they know that all I want is that answer, and they don't respond. So the thing we talked about doesn't get done, obviously, because I'm not going to beg and plead to do something for you. So the thing we talked about doesn't get done. A week, a month later, the person emails back and says, what about that thing we talked about? And I say, you got an email from me asking you a detail, and you didn't even bother to respond. You didn't even do me the courtesy of telling me that you were too busy to respond at that moment. Instead, it was just silence. So it didn't happen. You want to make sure that this kind of failure doesn't happen in the future. Have the common courtesy to respond to an email. I try not to be that person. So this will be interesting. I'm always interested in stuff like this. This next one is a nature book. This is Wild Spectacle by Janice Ray, who wrote a book with the intriguing title, Ecology of a Cracker Childhood. And this is seeking wonders in the world beyond humans. Looking for adventure and continuing a process of self-discovery, the author has repeatedly set out to immerse herself in wilderness, to be wild, and to learn what wilderness can teach us. From overwintering with monarch butterflies in Mexico to counting birds in Belize, the stories in Wild Spectacle capture her luckiest moments, the ones of heart-pounding amazement, discovery of romance, and moving towards living more wisely. In the author's darkest moments, she crosses boundaries to encounter danger and embrace sadness. Wild Spectacle explores our first home, the wild earth, and invites us to question its known and unknown beauties and curiosities. I love nature writing, so this is right up my alley. I think this comes out in the fall. Yes, this comes out in October. I think I'll Get Back to You is out already. Pretty sure this is out already. Sorry, I should have said that. This comes out in October. The only quibble that I have, the only caution that I have when I read that jacket copy, is that this might be not so much a nature book as a mystical nature book, and they bug me, because there's no element of mysticism in nature. If you go to nature in order to be wild with a capital W in italics, in order to find some sort of mystical oneness with the great forest, you're probably going to write a book that's boring to me. If there's a spiritual section, if there's a spirituality to the natural world, show it to me. Don't take me to where you feel it and close your eyes and quiver in vibrato and then wait for me to feel it too. Show it to me. Take a picture of it and show it to me. If you can't do that, if you can't demonstrate that mystical element in the wild experience exists, then it doesn't exist. No matter how much the wild, the wonders of the wilderness move you, there is no separate, outside, extrinsic, mystical element involved. It's just a personal response. I totally respect that, but it's not coming from anywhere but you. So I'd be interested to see. Every once in a while, I'll read a nature book that indulges a little too much in that. That's never good. This next one is a murder mystery. Murder mystery set in Italy. It's the second volume in a series, so plenty of time to jump on board. And this comes out soon. Yeah, August 10th, next Tuesday. This comes out soon. This is The Bitter Taste of Murder by Camilla Trinchieri. The Bitter Taste of Murder. And this is, if you read murder mysteries, or if you follow along with March Mystery Madness every year, you know that a popular sort of gimmick in murder mysteries is the fish out of water, where the detective doesn't belong and may or may not have expertise, but the main thing is they're a fish out of water. Mystery writers can often mine that gimmick for gold. And I don't know that I read the first volume in the series, so I don't know if this author does. It doesn't ring a bell. This is, let's see here, 1 year after moving to his late wife's Tuscan hometown of Gravigna, ex-NYPD detective Nico Doyle has fully settled into Italian country life, helping to serve and test recipes at his in-laws' restaurant. So there you see right away, right? Nico would have moved to Gravigna in grief. His late wife owned a property, maybe. She had a hometown in a small town in Tuscany, and he moves there. But he is an ex-NYPD police detective, so he is totally a fish out of water. But if crime happens in this local locale, the local police officials might want to tap into his expertise. That is classic fish out of water template for murder mysteries. So what do we got here? But the town is shaken by the arrival of wine critic Michel Mantelli in his flashy Jaguar. Mantelli holds his influential culinary magazine and blog over Gravigna's vintners and restaurateurs. Some of Gravigna's residents are impressed by his reputations, while others are enraged, especially Nico's landlord, whose vineyard Mantelli seems intent on ruining. I'm guessing from this dust jacket copy that Mantelli doesn't have long to live. Let's see here. Needless to say, Mantelli's lavish, larger-than-life, and often vindictive personality has made him many enemies. And when he is poisoned, the local Maresciallo, the local marshal, the local sheriff, Perillo, has a headache and a high-profile murder on his hands, and once again turns to Nico for help. Okay, so great. So that is the perfect template for a exotic locale, fish out of water murder mystery. Should be a lot of fun. Comes out right away. So this will be in a mail haul earlier today. I got a book that I'm going to read tonight. I'll read this tonight as well. And the first book in this series was Murder in Chianti, where I presume we're introduced to the character of Nico in that book and learn his backstory and learn and see the beginning of the partnership with the local police, the local sheriff, the local marshal. I'm hoping that I won't need to know all that stuff in order to enjoy this book. That is sort of the acid test of books in series, but we shall see. This next one is coming out in November from the folks at W.W. Norton, and it's a visual feast. So I don't know how much. This is an advanced copy, so there's no color in this one. But I want to show it to you because some of you are really going to be interested in this. And it comes out on November 9th, which certainly puts it in striking range of you getting the finished copy of this thing, wrapping it, and putting it away somewhere for Christmas, if you have a particularly visually oriented person on your list. This is by James Cheshire and Oliver Uberti, and it's called Atlas of the Invisible. Maps and graphics that will change how you see the world. What have we got here? In the past decade, we've gathered more data about ourselves than in the previous century. And in this book, award-winning geographer-designer team of Cheshire and Uberti transform enormous data sets into rich maps and cutting-edge visualizations. In this triumph of visual storytelling, they uncover truths about our past, reveal who we are today, and highlight what we face in the years ahead. I want to show you an example of that. Let me see one. One that gives you really good visuals here to show what we're talking about. Yeah, okay. Here we have a section on light levels. In other words, man-made light levels in urban settings. So there you've got, see, these things are in black and white with no color, and they won't be in the finished copy. But here you have, I don't know if you can make it out, but you'll see little clusters of darker stuff for light pollution. And then vast areas where there aren't any. And then you get to, let's see here. There's, yeah, China. These are all broken down quantitatively as to how much light pollution there is and how much it's changed over time. Ease of access we have here. The best measure of proximity is time, not distance, where you will get how close all these disparate areas of the world are to each other by time rather than by distance. Here we have the prevalence of rivers as means of connection. Look at that. Look at America, rife with rivers. So this will be one of those kinds of books, just full of visual information. And if you have somebody that loves that sort of thing, or if you are that somebody yourself, this is coming out in early November in full color hardcover. So as impressive as this advanced copy is, imagine what that's going to be like. Let me show you another one here. Oh, these are so good. Here we have seatbelts in the world. Just incredible, just fantastic. And then this last one is from Princeton University Press, Stanford University Press. And it's a bit of an acquired taste. We're going to end with the most impressive thing in this video, but also the one that's probably going to appeal to the smallest number of people watching. But impressive anyway, even so, impressive. This, incredibly, is The Light of the Eyes. These are homilies on the Torah by Rabbi Menachem Nahum of Chernobyl, who flourished in the 18th century, lived in the 18th century, was a Hasidic rabbi, and he wrote a vast amount on the Torah. And this book from Stanford is the first full-length translation of his most important book. Incredible. The translation, introduction, and commentary are all by Arthur Green. I want to give you a little bit about the book. Hasidism is an influential spiritual revival movement within Judaism that began in the 18th century and continues to thrive today. I believe Hasidism has been on the numerical, the population decline for several decades, so I'm not sure that it thrives today. It's a tiny, tiny segment of Judaism. One of the great classics of early Hasidism, The Light of Their Eyes, is a collection of homilies on the Torah, reading the entire 5 books of Moses as a guide to spiritual awareness and cultivation of the inner life. And that spiritual awareness, Rabbi Menachem is very much Kabbalah influenced, so there's going to be a lot of that, a lot of mysticism involved here. This is the first English translation of any major work of Hasidism's earliest and most creative period. Arthur Green's introduction and annotations survey the history of Hasidism and outline the essential teachings of this mystical movement. The Light of Their Eyes, by Rabbi Menachem Nahum of Chernobyl, offers insights that remain as fresh and relevant for the contemporary reader as when they were first published in 1798. I think it's incredible that Stanford is doing this. I think it's incredible that this is the first full annotated modern translation of this work. And I think it's going to be unbelievably interesting. I'm going to find this unbelievably... I find scriptural commentary just of any kind unbelievably interesting, but this is not only scriptural commentary, this is a historical work from an author I've never read. The most that I've read about Rabbi Menachem is from a big book from, I think, Princeton University Press about 4 years ago, a huge 1,000-page history of Hasidism, in which I remember this character cropping up. And I remember this book being mentioned many times in that book. And I may have even had a fugitive thought of thinking, gee, I wish I could read that. I wish I could read his commentaries on the Torah. I think that would be fascinating. Well, you wait long enough, here it is. So I don't know, in terms of recommending books, I'm not sure who's going to want this. But if you, again, it's important that you know it's there, right? That you know it's out there. I don't think I have a pub sheet on this at all. But I would think that this is right around the corner. I think this is out already or out very soon. So if you have someone who loves scriptural exegesis, homilies is a very white picket fence type word, but I imagine the analysis goes very deep here. If you have somebody who likes that sort of thing, maybe somebody who wants to read the founding documents, not only of Hasidism, but founding explorations of Kabbalah, Kabbalistic interpretation of these works. This thing is out there now. I don't think I even have a price on this. I'm shameful that I don't know that much about it, but I don't have any work. I don't have any paperwork on it. But you can look it up. The Light of Their Eyes is probably the only English translation, so it's Arthur Green that did all the work. And if this is in your wheelhouse, now you know it exists. So that is a little sort of miscellaneous mail that we're doing here. We have the most important book on this list, the one that's truly groundbreaking, an English language translation after 300 years. We have Atlas of the Invisible, a whole book of intriguing data manipulation, data maps. The Bitter Taste of Murder, the second book in a Italian murder mystery series. Wild Spectacle, in which a naturalist goes into the wild to see what she can see. And I'll Get Back to You, about the disinformation epidemic, where this author claims that the fact that we don't return each other's mail is seriously eroding the world, how we think of the world, how our mental health. Might be nothing, might be really fascinating. So Bitter Taste of Murder is right on my list. I'll Get Back to You is right on my list. And this gigantic work of Hasidism, I don't know when I'm going to find the time, because a book like this, you really have to sit down and devote yourself to it. But I want to read it so bad. I will dip into it tonight, but I think I will probably read it over the course of August. So anyway, there you go. That is miscellaneous mail. Yet more book talk on this channel. Good Lord, books. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. But I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.